And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Termite Towers. Now this is a sequel of sorts to Waggle Dance, which is a game about bees. Now we have a game about termites. I think these giant, taking outside how annoying termites are when I get in your house, these giant termite towers and stuff, that's really cool. And I like the idea of insects as a theme for a board game, because insects follow specific paths and patterns. So I'm pretty pumped about this one. Let's see if it pans out. Termites out, there's no good pun there. Let's keep moving. In this game, players are going to be getting points by trying to complete objective cards that are between you and someone else. So if this is between me and you, whichever one of us has the highest built cube of our tower. And in this game, you're building a tower here, and you're doing that by kind of dropping in Tetris shapes, which when you do them will give you points, as it shows up here. This one's worth 2 points. And you're going to drop them in, and they're all made up of different colors of wood. There are 3 different colors of wood, so this might drop into your tower like this. And so you're just trying to build a tower. When you fill a complete row of your tower in, let's say later on, I drop in maybe an L shape. That looks like this. I now have completed a row of my tower, so I get to pick one of these things as a special ability or a one-time use that I'll get out of these things. Each player has 3 nests that they begin with. 2 of the special abilities give you a 4th and a 5th one that you can go through. These nests are going to be used to store the 3 different kinds of wood in them, or you're going to be able to put larvae in them who will hatch into more ants. You're going to start with some ants. You have regular ants and you have soldier ants. The soldier ants are pretty much the same as a regular ant, but they can displace a regular ant when you do the worker placement. That's what this game is. At the beginning of each round, players are going to take their ants, roll them, and then in turn order, place these out on the board. So there are many different cards to place the workers on. For many of the cards, if you just need to match the number. I could put a 4 here, and I do this. And so this one, for example, gives me a larva to put in one of my spots. This one here just means I need to place the actual ants on top of the larva in my nest. They need to be both the same number, and that will then hatch into a larger ant. Or 3, which will give me a bigger ant. Up here is where I get my blueprint cards, and there'll be face-up blueprint cards next to the board that players will take, each worth a certain amount of points. And then over here is where I can get more cubes, or down here I'm going to get larva cards. Larva cards are like special ability cards. When you take these, they will let you do some sort of special ability, and it tells you whether you do it at night or during the day. There's 2 phases to each round. And this is the card that lets you actually put the wood cubes from your nest into here. Now the one main thing, I'm showing you the 6 cards here. These cards are lettered A, B, and C, and you place them around the board. And here we have E, F, and G. D, though, is where we collect the wood, the materials we need to build our termite towers. So that would be this area. Like I said, there's 3 different types of wood. You're going to have some starting cards out here that are going to show you they have different numbers. And this means when you place your workers here, if I have a 4, for example, I'm going to place it like this. Now, I did mention on these other cards in the game, so here, another player might say, okay, they're going to put a number 4 out here. I can displace that with my soldier ant. On these cards, any number of ants can go. It's just that regular ants count as 1 and soldiers count as 2. And this is going to matter because the winner is going to be able to take 2 of the cubes, and then second place gets 1 of the cubes. But also players are going to be able to spend to put out tunnels. Once you have tunnels built in place, you would put your workers here to build the tunnels. You flip this over and look, oh, this one produces 4 white cubes. So going to this area initially gives me the brown cubes, but it might give me the white cubes, but only I can get to those. But you can build more tunnels and go farther in. There's 3 more white cubes. And if I build a tunnel over to this one, well, there's a bunch of black cubes in this area here. And you'll be depleting these, and you'll have to dig down farther to get to these because you're going to run out of these. Now, honestly, that's the entire game. You're just going to keep going through this until one player gets to a certain height in their tower here, at which case you're going to get points. The points are only from the blueprints that you've achieved and from the objectives that are between the players. and whoever has the most is the winner. Now, components are a mixed bag. First of all, I love the different colors they use for the termites. I know that sometimes in this review I've called them ants, but they're termites, I know that. So we have the blue, the orange. These dice are great. And the brown and yellow, and it's easy to tell them apart. I love the pips. These are fantastic dice. The cubes are okay. I do have a huge, and I should mention these double layer boards are great, even if they are confusing. And this is one of my I have two big problems with the components. One is, it's not easy to understand what anything does. Here's a really good example. See this here? This says convert a small termite into the larger one. But that is literally a white cube they're using to show that. And when you go through here it's changed this into what? That's problematic. This symbology is really bad because they use here different color cubes, but here we have, is this changing termites or is it changing cubes? This was termites. That's really bad terminology. We had a big problem with this. I know they were trying to go for language independence, but in fact it makes it worse. The other problem I have with the components is when you look at this here, you can see all this stuff on the board, and I stuck these cards here. In the rule book, the actual setup looks something like this. This is a huge setup. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but this just needed a board. Come on, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I should fit this game in a small box. Well, I'm glad for that, and I don't want everything to be huge, but a board would have made setup so much faster and so much less messy. I just found that between the obscure the obscure symbols and the messiness of just having cards all over the place, that detracted a bit from the game experience. This game is such a mixed bag of reviewing for me. I already mentioned the components. Some of the components are amazing. And then there's that big sprawling mess of a board and really bad symbology. So it's like, that's the way the gameplay is too. It's a worker placement game. Great. You roll dice, use those numbers, put them out. You can manipulate the numbers a little bit by spending other dice. Great. That's fun. But where do you put stuff? Well, at the beginning of the game, you're like, hey, it's a worker placement game. What do you do in every worker placement game? Get more workers. Okay, great. So you have to go get the eggs, put the eggs in the larva, then put dice on top of those eggs. So you can't even get new dice until the end of round 2. But everyone kind of gets to do that because you could start, using your dice immediately to get stuff, but you're going to lose the people who get more dice. So that just didn't feel that interesting. Another problem is there's like, the tetra shapes and dropping them in. I don't know if that has to do with termites, but okay, that's fine. Build these things. It just feels like work. You're going out there, building the tunnels. Wow, it's a great concept. I really like that idea of moving around in the tunnel, dropping these tunnels down, bringing out the stuff. Area control over who gets to bring the wood out. That's all cool stuff. But then you got to put the wood in these things and then move it into different tetra shapes and drop it in. And that just doesn't feel as exciting. The special abilities that you get for filling in a row are okay. That's better than okay though. Those cards, those larva cards, the one special cards, they're great. That's one of the triggers at the end of the game. I mentioned if someone gets a certain tower, but I want to talk about this now. When that deck of cards runs out, it triggers the end of the game. If you play me, that deck will always run out because those cards are always good. They're good. You're going to use them in some manner or fashion. So I'm going to run through those cards and get them and take them. Man, those cards are so good, but everyone's fighting over them, and it feels like those cards make doing the ordinary actions of the game not as compelling. And so what this game turns out to be is it's a big mess with a lot of different things, good and bad, washing it all together. It's not a game I'm that interested in. There's not a lot of cool places to place your workers. You get larva, take larva, and then just have area control battles in different spots, but usually you're trying not to fight with somebody because it's terrible to put a bunch of dice in one area and then get almost nothing for it. And this game has a bit of take that aspect to it because you can go spots and just get cut out of everything. And then there's very few points. Final scores are very low, and it doesn't feel satisfying. You have these blueprint cards and then the objectives, and that's it. There's no other points. Filling in the rows on your termite tower, All that does is give you these little special abilities which aren't that great. This feels like a really, really unpolished game. If this was brought to me, I'd be like, wow, I love some of the concepts in here. Placing out the termites and then the soldier termites as on the spots, fantastic. Collecting the wood, putting it in here, building a tower, that's cool. Digging tunnels to get stuff, that's neat. Different areas. And then I get slapped by bad symbology, a sprawling, very, very messy game board, spots that aren't really that interesting, the gameplay itself not being as exciting as I want it to be. I think my rating for this game is slightly higher because I love the theme and I wanted to like it so much more, but in reality, the game just isn't up to snuff. It's just, there are so many great games out there where you place workers, rolling dice and stuff, and this really falls short when looked next to them. The only thing that Termite Tower has going over the other games is the theme. And here it's not enough. That theme needs to be coupled with a really great game. And here we're getting a less than average one with some messiness, like I said. So that's Termite Towers. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment, I really wanted to like it more.